Hi y'all, I'm back. I went in, and the reason I left quickly before is because lunch was ready, and I went in and ate a sandwich and stuff, and I came back because my wife gave me an orange, and whenever she gives me an orange, I get all shaky and wound up from the sugar in the orange. So I should theoretically really be on a roll right now. I'm not going to do any more of this because y'all know, let's show of hands. Y'all know I can make a point out of this, right? Right. Okay. So we don't need that. I got to thinking, I just got back a week ago from a nap in. I'm going to another nap in. I was fortunate the other nap in because it was like flooded up 40 feet after I left, and it was flooded before I got there, but while I was there it was not flooded. So oh, and I was going to show you some stuff from there. Hold on. Here's the deal while I'm holding this rock. You know, last fall I gave away like 20 buckets of my stuff that I'll never end up working, that no longer meets my standards as a connoisseur of fine lithics. And this stuff, so I gave away a bunch of rock. Well, so I saw somebody at the nap-in, and in the course of them being standing around when I was there, or sitting around when I was there, I told somebody else, yeah, you know, I gave rock away in the fall and everything, and the guy, Bob, whatnot, his name isn't, that's a theoretical, his initials are B. Anyway, said, yeah, and that stuff was like, I can't remember how he described it, but basically he described it to make it sound like it was some sort of concrete impregnated with titanium. And I'm like, well, you know, who exactly was holding a gun to your head forcing you to work it once you realize that? Which, you know, so I defend myself to the extent. I don't have near the level of hostility and aggression that I had when I was an errant youth. Now it's kind of like people fear that I might throw a marshmallow at them or something. Anyway, all that was to talk about this. This material is cool. It's got fossils in it. It's got blackness in it. It's got grayish blackness and fossils. It has matte finish, and it's really cool. However, and it comes from a very local little area. However, it's hard to work. And I don't heat stuff. So I either get a point out of it raw or I don't get a point out of it at all. But, so anyway, I'm taking some of this to the next nap-in. I'll give it away, and people are going to act all sheepish. Well, what do you want for it? I'm not going to take their money because I don't want them hating me and thinking I got to them. So I'll just, you know, give it away. Boy, that was bad. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. See? It's workable. Well, dang. Maybe I should keep this rock. The problem is, here's something really important to remember. If you're gonna work bud tough Texas rock, see, another thing is that's concrete, that's good material. And by good, I mean it works well, but it's tough. But anyway, if you're gonna work tough rock, raw rock, try and work it when it's full of water. Like this just been outside. And I was going through it and everything and picked it out, but it's been outside. But if I take this and put it in buckets and put it in the garage for a week or two and then try and work it, it's a very bad thing. But isn't that cool? I like this material. It's got a little turritella, snail, marine fossils in it, and like I said, it's weird shapes, but of course I like the weird shapes. Trying to cut that hinge off. But odds are I could get an okay point out of this. But I will say too that sometimes you get a really, well, most of the time, when you got a really big tough rock, you can take big flakes off of it and stuff when you're starting out, and you think, oh, this is okay rock, I can work this. And then as it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, it gets harder and harder and harder to do anything with it. But the other thing is, if you will just get you enough of a rock pile and spend lots and lots of time hitting to where before your eyes go bad like mine are, you can hit a gnat's butt at 20 yards, then you can swing for the fences on stuff that's tough and get some good stuff out. So anyway, okay, so, all right, so anyway, this knapping I went to, I have show and tell and thoughts, not all of which have to do with this knapping, but I decided that those first 3 videos I made today might be annoying, so anyway. Okay, first of all, Philip. Philip gave me this, and in case you don't recognize it, it's flint, and it's the shape of Texas. And I was grateful, and Philip seemed quite nice and good napper and everything, and so so I brought this home, and I'm showing it mainly because I'll just ask a question. I know Philip may watch it. I just thought of something now. I can't, and I'm not planning on ever moving, but if I do move, what I want to know is, Philip, you know, could you, at your convenience, just message me a list of the states that you can change this into, and so I know where all I can go. All right. Anyway, I don't know if I ever told you all this, but if you ever get the chance to work any of this stuff, if anybody offers you any silicon to work, run screaming away from them. It isn't your friend, and it will not treat you fairly. Okay, we were talking before about rock. Okay, this came out of a river, obviously. And I wanted to make the comment that, again, it's glossy kind of looking, and it has little bitty circles on the cortex here, both of which many people would take as indicative of being quality material. I actually think this may be an old hammerstone flake. But here's the deal. Little circles on the cortex of something that's bounced around in a river can mean indeed that the quality of the original material was better than average, because the little circles are from little rocks hitting it and put little cones in it, and that means it's soft enough for that to at least happen. But after it's been in the river for 11 billion years, I think there's a lot of secondary silicification of all that slightly fractured surface, and sometimes it becomes kind of like concrete infused with titanium. Additionally, you're not going to get this color. What color do you think this is, and how tough do you think it is? I don't know. Let's find out. You say, oh, you're going to hit it and mess it up? I'll be like, trust me, it's already messed up. Nothing. Okay? There we go. All right. I think this rock could be making me a liar. It may have been in the water long enough to where that soaked in. And it is that color. The thinner it is, the more it can. Dang it. That orange. But anyway, hopefully now, okay, forget me being wrong about the color. Hopefully now you can see though that this is grainy, dry looking, and you can see the tearing, all those little hackles, little whitish hackles, and you can see crystals in it. And usually, dadgum. Okay, I just want to see the other side. The other side's a little bit different color, but it still does have some of that limonite in it. But again, you can see dry hackles, everything. This rock, I guarantee you, is just super tough, and it would be very difficult, particularly if you didn't want to use indirect percussion, to make this into a point. Now, I said difficult, not impossible, and I was pushing hard on that lump to undercut that. And hopefully you can see that the colors are really neat in this thing, primarily because it was wanting to just, you know, be the exception that proves the rule. But there are a lot of river cobbles that are very pretty inside. And I do have a friend that's napped for many, many years that naps only river cobbles. But he heats them all, and he heats them a bunch. The problem is you got to skin them first if they're thick, and that's sort of an arm-ruining kind of activity. So I don't do it. I should, but my river cobble days are kind of over. Again, you got to put some support on that thing to try and make these flakes wrap. But before I get off into that too much, what was I gonna say? Dang. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. Where is that? I'm looking for something I want to show you. I had them. What do I do with it? I'm not intentionally being obtuse. I'm trying to figure out where to put it. Oh. I think I see it. Hold on. Ah! Earlier I thought of another question somebody had. We got get to talking about phasing of stuff, but before I do that, okay, that cobble I was just working. This was a similar kind of river cobble that I started working at the Nap-In last weekend, a local cobble that I was trying to just get something out of. And so I bifaced it, and there was someone sitting next to me who needs to remain anonymous, but his initials are Jason. And he's famous for making ultra thin potato chip kind of stuff and acting as if he could do that out of, you know, a piece of an oak tree trunk or something. So I got this bifaced to where it was under control, which was a feat in itself, and gave it to him and said, here, thin this out. Well, so he did, and he did a really good job of it. He had a couple of edge failures near the end, but I'm surprised because he was indirect percussing this, and the thought of indirect percussing this and having it work as tough as it is just really amazing. But my whole point is it's possible to make points out of stuff like that, and that if anybody can do it, it's Jason. So there's a little, you know, I find stuff. This fell out of something I had, and I don't even know where it came from. It's probably one I did, but I don't know. This is one I was working from a flake, and you can see that, you know, I got the convexity going over here, and at that point your edges are down, and I just I think I was doing that at a nap-in, got finished or something, or I quit for some reason to show somebody something else or whatever. Here's an issue with the bifacing. Phasing of stuff and how you stage it is really important, because if you're dependent upon pressure and you don't want to do indirect, and you're okay with your direct, but you start getting worried with your direct as soon as it starts getting thin or something, you're not isolating platforms and driving them real far. Or if you get your preform or biface down to where it's small enough or narrow enough for whatever reason you're not real confident in your ability to use direct, and you have not yet, if you start pressure flaking on this, you're going to have a problem, because you've got to push on either one of these. You've got to push your flakes more than an inch to get them to overlap, and it's raw rock, and it's just tough to do, and they're still thick. That's the thing, is you start out with a big platter and you feel like, oh, well, it's thin, because it is. The width to thickness ratio is pretty good when it's big. Well, like this. I showed you all that, I think. But the width to thickness ratio is okay when it's big. And you're like, okay, time to go lower, do some more stuff with some other tool. Well, if you switch techniques, and the technique is something that you can't thin reliably with to the center line, then now you start losing width. Then you get your stuff to go to the center line almost, but you don't notice, and you thought you were going to have a thin point. And by the time you get down and get it narrow, you realize, well, wait a minute, it still had too much thickness. It still is a ½ inch thick or whatever, and now it's too late and you've lost width. So that's one of the reasons that I strongly advocate the indirect percussion, because with the indirect percussion, if you get halfway where you understand it, you can shoot. You can continue to thin this without having to rely exclusively on direct percussion, and then get it down to where you really are capable of thinning it and handling it with pressure, and thin all the way down, all the way through all your different techniques, as opposed to trying to take long distance shots early on and make yourself a 3-inch wide potato chip. Yes, Jason can do it. I'm not Jason. Speaking of which, yeah, so this is stuff of his that he made. It's like, he probably already put this stuff on Facebook or something, but it's 4 inches wide or something like that. And I mean, edges are like amazing. Smaller one, but still ultra thin. This is one of my favorite kinds of material from Central Texas, and again, great edges. And this one too. So anyway, but then I'll show you this too. I like Harroway knives, and the Harroway knife was common in some places, North Texas especially. A lot of them made out of alabates and stuff. They start out as an ovate type knife, and then through resharpening, unifacial resharpening, they get kind of a propeller shape to them. And they're really cool tools. But anyway, one of the fearless leaders of the nap-in I just attended, whose initials are Mick, made these points and had them there, and I took a fancy to them, and I'm glad to have examples of Mick's work. Mick's funny. He's interesting too. This is completely unrelated to anything, but this is an artifact that was given to me, and I'm just wondering if y'all think that maybe that was like a kid's toy that somehow got across the big pond from Denmark or something. I'm wondering. Don't know. Along the lines of pretty, I've been trying to show y'all occasional pretty things. I call these are obviously not finished. Well, or they are, depending upon how you want to look at it. You know, I talked about theoretical projects. Well, these are what I like to call BBs or PPs. You know, beautiful bifaces or pretty preforms, whichever you prefer. So you can call it BBPPs if you wanted to. I like to say, I kind of like to, you know, I've long said that whoever gets to define the terms of discussions wins. And so I like to first define the terms and insist on them. So if you're around me at a napkin or something, I call this a biface, then it's a biface. If I call it a preform, then it's a preform. And it doesn't matter what you come back with on that. I would just keep arguing that it is whatever I said it was until you give up and go away. Or agree that I'm right and stay, whichever you prefer. I'm kind of kidding. I think I've showed you that before. Did I show you that? That's an artifact, and it's like, which is living proof that Jason's relatives lived 8,000 years ago or something, 6,000 years ago, I don't know. Anyway, so I also, it's another artifact, canning knife base, and stuff. I post on Instagram once in a while, and I posted a real cool couple of these things. Pedernales Point starts showing that they put the bases on first. And of course you can see in this that the base was put on first and that it was broken in manufacture. But this too, you know, you see the straight walls coming out. This also clearly not finished on the edges, not even closer to a cortex over here. The base was put on first, and you can see punch work. And I guess you can argue if you want to that they were coming in on these notches with thin, flat hammerstones, but I don't buy that for a minute. I think they were either using quarters or punching it. I don't know what the heck the guy was doing here, because look, the guy, when I say guys, I mean guys or girls. I don't have any idea who made this stuff. I know it wasn't me. Punch that base in real well. But look, there was an existing natural hole in this thing. I guess he was trying to make a holy point, holy blade or something, but big inclusion there too. So they worked some stuff that was interesting too. Cortex on the end. I like that kind of stuff. I like the points that have the whitish, what that's from is alkaline environment. You think that thing got used a bunch? Okay, so anyway, I guess that's it from this batch. Okay, so what was I gonna do? Oh. That back over here. By the way, if you ever find banded shirt like that, it looks neat, but in many instances, the visibility of that banding, dang. In many instances, the visibility of the banding is the result of a long time out in the weather where it's selectively colored it, I guess, depending upon its porosity or something on the different layers. And so it's very prominent looking sometimes on an unhit area, but then once you hit it, it can go away, or not go away, but just not be very visible. So all I'm saying with that is, if something's an artifact, like this was, think twice about hitting it, because it may not be that pretty. If you're hitting it because it's pretty. Prettier on that side. Once again, rocks try and prove me wrong. Rocks are mean. Okay, so, oh, I mentioned this too. This is a good example of something. Most of the quartzites within 5 hours of me or so are just real large grain quartzites that, you know, they're just not good for much of anything. This stuff, excuse the heck out of me. Ow, that hurt. This stuff is finer grained. And the way I discovered this material in South Texas, about 3 or 4 hours from me, was I was walking along and I picked up a rock like this to hit a piece of chert. And it was one of them butt hard pieces of chert that's just mean. And the chert didn't break, but the hammerstone that I'd picked up did, and it cleaved in half, right down the length of it. And I looked at it, I'm like, well, gee, that's a nice surface. I mean, I wonder if I could nap that. So I made 2 points out of the 2 halves, which is what you always ought to do. Make the rocks learn. Okay. What do we have here? This is what we who are in the know regarding Central Texas materials would call a baby amoeba. A baby amoeba. And sometimes these things are tender and juicy inside, just like, you know, just like a baby amoeba. And I like these, and I never get them. Well, somehow I got this. So now I thought I would attempt to hit it and see what I can do at the risk of great annoyance. Oh, it's 27 minutes. If I don't come back, you're welcome for this lovely, concise and to the point and on-topic video. If I do come back, then that means that this went well enough for me to show you the rest. I'll be right back.